Stealing is often a challenging behavior that caregivers report about kids in foster care, kids who have been adopted out of foster care, or kids who have just experienced developmental trauma. And stealing can bring up a lot of issues for service providers and mentors and community members because, well, nobody likes to be stolen from. Nobody wants their stuff stolen, and nobody likes to accuse someone of stealing either. So today I'm going to talk through some of the reasons behind the behavior, and then what we can do to help. Let's roll that intro and then we'll dive in. I'm Rebecca Britt, and this is the Stable Moments Podcast. I started this podcast to understand from all perspectives how we can help end the foster care crisis. The overwhelming response was we need to support our local communities. Unwanted, abandoned, orphaned children are the community's responsibility. We must support, guide, love, invest, raise up generations that will nurture, love, and support their own children to end this crisis. So, the purpose of this podcast is to build an army of people that are interested and willing to take responsibility of our foster youth and who are supportive of foster and adoptive families. This is the on-ramp for people who want to get involved but might not know where to start. I want this to be a place where community members feel like they can make a difference, where they feel good enough to make that difference, and believe that they can be a big deal in the life of a child. Thanks for being part of our community, and make sure to join the conversation in the Stable Moments Podcast Facebook group. Together, we can end the foster care crisis. Before we dive into today's topic, if you would like to learn more about the Stable Moments model or how you can launch a community mentorship program for foster and adopted kids, head on over to stablemoments.com and check out our free webinar. Okay, so let's dive into why children with developmental trauma steal. Okay, it is not like every kid obviously steals, but it's an issue. Like parents will report it, the school will report it, the church will report it. And, I hear things like, watch out, he steals, or he might steal from you, or he stole from us. Like we let him come and have services here and he stole from us. I hear these comments, and what I'd like to do today is let you know why this behavior happens. I hate calling it stealing. It's really like, it's taking without asking, which is the definition of stealing. But anyway, we need to see this behavior as communication of an underlying need so that we can respond to it appropriately, correct? Okay, so the first reason why children with developmental trauma may steal is attachment issues. So developmental trauma can disrupt the development of a secure attachment with a caregiver, right? So kids, as they're going through the development, they have nurturing parents, they develop this secure attachment, which means that they can trust and they can rely on their attachment figure or their parent or their caregiver to give them food, and their home life is probably stable, and there's a lot of things in their life that is just reliable. Maybe they go to the same school, they see the same people, they have a routine, and they develop this secure attachment which allows them to hit crucial milestones in their development, and they feel fulfilled and content and safe, right? So a kid that doesn't form this secure attachment or has attachment issues may steal to seek that attention, seek what they're not getting, or to fill an emotional void that is left by the absence of nurturing relationships, okay? This is a huge thing that I see, which is just stealing or taking as much as I can take to fill this huge void that I have. Sometimes getting things makes me feel better. It calms my nervous system. I have this huge void from all the neglect or abandonment that I have felt, all the unstableness in my world, and to steal and to take things fills some of that void and makes me feel a little bit better. So attachment issues can be at the root of some of this behavior that we see. Another reason why kids with developmental trauma may steal is survival instincts. So in some cases, kids who have experienced trauma may have learned survival strategies that include stealing. So this might have actually been like a need where they went without. So maybe they went without food. Maybe they went without clothes. Maybe they went without shelter. Maybe they were in a situation where they were taught, their survival basically taught them, when you go into a new situation, figure out what you can take or get from this situation to make you survive. So if you can go into a place and you can steal food, or you can steal a blanket, or you can steal water bottles or something that makes you feel like it'll actually help you get through the next couple days, you are actually taking for survival. And you may be saying, yeah, that's all nice, but a kid doesn't need to steal an iPad or a pair of earrings for survival. No, but if what you learn to get by, to survive, in the very beginning in your core development and as you're growing up is what, if you realize, like, to survive in this world, I need to take things to get my needs met, then it just makes it's normal. It is not just normal. It is like what you do to survive. So there's no judgment against it, right? It is like, I'm out here and I'm surviving. I'm doing it. So so then when it becomes something that's like maybe of value, like an iPad, like maybe their thought is they could sell it. Maybe they're filling a void. Maybe their thought is, I just want this thing. Or maybe it's just, I've learned how to steal for survival. It's just a strategy that I use now. Okay. So, but if it's based in survival, that's what we need to know. We need to understand that there was a time that stealing worked. Stealing got needs met. This has also been, it could be like stealing, okay, my mom's passed out on a couch because she's high and I haven't eaten in a really long time. And I see that there are chips on the counter and the drug dealer is distracted by video games. So I am going to sneak and grab the chips off the counter. And that could be an experience they have over and over and over again, where they take small things and they have to sneakily get their needs met. But as they grow up, they have that skill that they can rely on that has worked for them very well, right? So that's one scenario. But another scenario could be like mom or dad or caregiver or whoever taught them to steal. We've seen this, right? We've seen parents use strollers or diaper bags or kids' backpacks to steal at Walmart or whatever, the grocery store, because people are less likely to intersect a kid with a backpack and search a 4-year-old for things than they would an adult, or search a stroller for stolen items than they would just an adult. Okay? So kids often are taught, hey, we steal, this is just something that we do. It's a norm in our household. So then to come into the normal world and just say oh, well, we don't steal. Oh, well, don't you understand? All of our needs are met and we don't need to steal and we pay. And I don't know, stealing worked really well for me in my home of origin. It's just what we did. And maybe we bonded over that. And maybe when we got away with it, it was oh, you did a good job. And maybe I got accolades for that. And maybe I felt good for that behavior. Maybe it was the one time my mom really felt value in me and showed me, oh, I love you, kid, is because I was able to steal for her. So if that's the case, now I steal for that reason. I steal to feel worth something. Okay? So another reason why kids with developmental trauma may steal is control and power, okay? So these kids have had all of their control and their power pretty much taken away from them. Their parents may not be in their lives anymore. They're told where they're going to live. They're now moved schools. They're told where they're going to go to school. They're told that they have to see a therapist. They're told that they, what their schedule is going to be. Their new family now tells them what they eat, which might be completely different than what they're used to eating. Every single thing in their life is now dictated by these new circumstances and the state, caseworkers, foster parents, okay? And this is the same reason why we see some kids bedwetting or using the restroom, not, toileting outside of the bathroom. And we see that because it's the one thing that they can control. So this too, you walk into a situation where everybody's making every choice for you, and you can feel a little powerful if you take something. They have taken so much from you. The powers that be, have taken so much from you that I'm going to take something from them. I'm going to take something. Like, I need to get something out of this. I need to take something too. I need some power. I need some control. I need to assert myself here. So I'm going to take something too. So power control could be a way for them to feel a sense of agency and safety over their own lives. Another reason why kids with developmental trauma may steal is impulse control, right? So kids that have had secure attachments, that are neurotypical, that have been raised in loving, caring, nurturing environments, they have a better impulse control. So like, they have been able to move from their survival brain, and they've actually, because they're in a safe, nurturing, loving environment that allows their brain to develop, they're able to develop the cognitive thinking parts of their brain, the executive functioning parts of their brain, and they start to think of things. When you're not in survival, we get to think of things like, oh, I'm not going to do this behavior because I don't like the consequence, or I'm going to try to make good choices, or, I have a loving family and I know that I matter and I know that it's okay if I make mistakes. So I'm going to try this. There's a lot of thinking that goes on when you are not stuck in survival mode. But when you're stuck in survival mode, there is no thought. There's no able to process and work through or problem solve. What should I do? And are the consequences good? And might I want to make this choice? Or might I want to make this choice? Or where do I want to be? Or who? No, it's like, that thing is interesting right now, going to take it, impulse. Okay. So it might just be, when you say to a kid, what were you thinking? It's not a great question. It's like, I wasn't thinking at all. What was I thinking? Okay. So don't ask a kid, what were you thinking? But it might just come down to, I saw it, I grabbed it, and lack of impulses, because the development of the brain is not there for us to expect a certain amount of impulse control. And then finally, self-esteem and identity. So we did just talk about how stealing could actually give you value if, when you stole in your family, you were given accolades for that. But also, you can see people all around with things, right? Like, we see people who have new shoes or a new pencil or the coolest eraser or a phone or a calculator or something that's like, man, I wish I had that. And there's no way for me to get that. Like, no, I'm not asking Santa for it. Santa hasn't come in the last 2 years. Like, no, I don't get allowance at my house. Like, there's no other way for me to earn or try to get things. And getting things and having things, that gives us a sense of pride and a sense of identity and a sense of self-worth. So to get things, I'm just going to take them, Like, I want those things. I want to feel valuable too. I'm done being the person that doesn't have anything. I'm done being the person that gets made fun of. And if this is what it is to be cool and accepted or whatever in our society, and I have no way to get that, and I don't have caregivers that are going to give me that, then I'm just going to take that. Okay? And that can help with those feelings of worthlessness and inadequacy. Now, at the Stable Moments, in our Stable Moments program, we have a rule of no gifts, no food, and we really try to show that, for these kids, getting things can be very, it can be rewarding, and it can really fill that void. And what we are trying so hard to do is be relational. So be relationship based rather than transactional. And so kids that haven't had that healthy relationship exemplified for them, and they haven't been able to understand how rewarding it is to have back and forth with a nurturing, healthy, loving adult that cares about them, then it comes down to like, cool, what can you get me? So a lot of times kids come to our program with this kind of underlying yeah, I get that I'm going to hang out with a mentor, but like, what are you going to give me? And they may see what they can get. It may be small and seem like, why wouldn't we give a kid that, Rebecca? Like, at my facility, we used to have bottles of water, like single-use water bottles. And they were in the fridge. And at first it was like, it's hot out. Of course, kids can have water. Unlimited access to water. Just go grab a water bottle. Well, even when it came down to water bottles, the kids were like, I can just take these. Now, the kids weren't stealing them. We told them that they could take them. But still, it's the same principle. As soon as they knew they could take them, it was the first place they went when they got to our facility. They ran straight to the refrigerator. They took a water bottle. And then they would chug that water bottle just to get another one. Like if we were like, oh, you have to finish that water before you can get another water, they would chug it because they would see how many can they get. And they would make the whole session about this dang water. And it would break up the relationship because now it's just like, okay, I figured out I can get as many water bottles as I want if I drink the water. And it was like such a fixation to be able to get the water bottle and to fill that void that the whole session became about water. And then even at the end, they would negotiate, like they'd be taking waters and they'd be like, oh, I'm just going to take one home for the ride. And, in the beginning it was like, oh yeah, cool, dude. Yeah, sure. You can take one for the ride. But then it was like, I have my 7 siblings in the car. I'm just going to take one for each of them. And then you feel a little awkward. You're like, we're not trying to, okay. And then the next time it was all about that. So we just, no water. It's not no water. Don't worry. We let the kids have water in our program. But how we do it is like a reusable water bottle, not something that they get to take and keep. It's like a reusable water bottle that has their name on it that fosters a sense of belonging, right? Every time they come, they get to see their water bottle with their name on it. And they're like, oh, cool. I belong here. But we refill it and it's not that exciting because you don't get a new one every time. And there's not a bunch of them that you can take. So just that is like an example of moving from transactional to relational, but also how getting things can really take away from building the relationship. So it's the same way, like if a kid says to a mentor, hey, can you give me this? Or, hey, I really need this. The kid might be talking like, well, I would journal at school, but I don't have a journal. And it's very normal for a community mentor to say like, oh my gosh, dude, I will buy you a journal and come next time with a journal. But then the next time the kid's like, oh, okay, cool. So this is like, I can put it in order and get my stuff back. And then it becomes about what can I get? And inevitably it ends up being like, what can I ask for next time? Did you bring me something? If you didn't bring him something, did you bring me something? Oh, you didn't bring me anything, so you must not value me. Because our relationship is through gift giving and transactions. It's not through time spent because they don't see that, as a currency yet. So we have to build that trust and build that relationship. And so we do that by taking out the things that they can take. Okay. So how can we help? Let's say you are a teacher, you're a parent, you are a community member, you're somebody serving these kids. How can we help a kid that has stealing behaviors, okay? Or they take things. So first, we see the behavior as communication. So we're not like, this kid steals, right? We're like, he has challenges with taking things without asking. And let's look into some of these things. Like, do you know about his history? Do you know about her issues with control or impulse? Or do you think that this is an impulse thing? Do you think this is a self-esteem thing? Do you think this is like actually in the home of origin they were taught to steal thing? Do you think this is a survival thing? Because all of that helps us understand better. And we're never going to do a blanket approach that all kids are doing it for survival, or all kids are doing it because their mom taught them to steal, or all kids were doing it because they had impulse control. It could be a mix of several things. It could be one thing. But if you can get to know this kid, then you start to know, without making assumptions, but you start to know a little bit more about behind the behavior. So once you kind of know more, if you're not going to know anymore, like if you're not going to be able to have a conversation and figure out what the root cause is, which because it's far, like it may be completely inappropriate to figure it out, right? At least just see it as communication. See stealing as communication. They are communicating that they have a need. Either their need is that they're unable to have impulse control. Maybe they feeling like they're out of control and they want some agency. Maybe they are wanting some accolades or some value. Maybe they want some attention. Maybe they feel like they need to steal to be the cool kid. Maybe they feel like they can't get things without stealing. Okay. So just understand that there is a reason for the behavior, that they did not come in here and say, well, I don't care about Miss whoever, I'm taking her stuff. Okay. That's probably not the reason. Okay. So let's see the behavior as communication. Let's start there. Okay. Then give a non-punitive way for the child to return items. So at Stable Moments, and I've also implemented this at schools before, like if I had a kid on my caseload that just often took things, it would have been little things. The chalkboard eraser, the pencils, blocks, like things that the only reason we knew that they were being taken was because mom would undo the backpack at the end of the night and see these things in the backpack and say, these don't belong to us. You're stealing. Bring them back to the school. The school would say, yeah, they belong to us. Okay. But there's that just right there was shame inducing. I'm not blaming a mom. Like moms should be checking their kids' backpacks, like whatever. That's fine. You're the parent. You're empowered to be the parent. But in this scenario, it was more of a reporting thing. So like the mom every day would be like, give me your backpack. I want to see if you stole. Yep, she stole again. You're bringing this back to school tomorrow. It was kind of this shame-inducing thing. The kid knew, just was trying to figure out better ways to hide it from mom, knew she'd be in trouble if she stole, whatever. So instead, what we would implement is a way that like, okay, we understand that you have this need to take things and a compulsion sometimes. And sometimes you have impulse issues and you just take those things. So what we're going to do is set up a box in the classroom that is, you can go over to that box anytime, maybe even hide it, put it somewhere where like they could actually access it without anybody seeing them. And you just return things there. And once a week, I'll go over and take things out. You can always bring things back that you take. Okay. So it's just a way to give them an option to return items without having to frisk them and call them out and then do this big thing of we're going to return it and all of that. Okay. So figure out some way to normalize the behavior and figure out some way like, hey, you can identify it. Hey, we understand that this is a challenge and we are going to set up this area that you can return things without anybody saying anything. We won't shame you. We're not going to ask you about it. Just you can return things. It's just a safe place to return things. You can do this with the whole class. You can say, if you find something or you have something that's not yours, or you realize that you have something that's not yours at the end of the day, that's okay. This is where we return it. Okay, so it could be framed like maybe it was taken, but also maybe sometimes you just end up with other people's stuff by accident. Okay? Then the final thing is, let's say it's a big thing, or it is something that like we need to return. We need to let somebody know that we took it. This scenario or example that I'm thinking of, a kid that took an iPad. So this was like a teacher's iPad, and it was like a big enough item where like we weren't just going to put this in the box to return. I think the teacher was already like kind of freaking out that their iPad was taken. So when we found this, we were able to go back. We were able to return the iPad, but we chose to do a relationship building activity. So the teacher and the kid sat down together. They made a bracelet, and the kid was making a bracelet for the teacher. The teacher was able to say how scared she was and how it made her feel when she looked in her bag and her iPad wasn't there. But she also was able to say, I know that you did not intend to make me feel this way. Thank you for making a bracelet to show me that We still have a relationship in that it's not that you don't like me, that you were just interested in the iPad. Thank you for returning it. And so at the end of the day, the relationship is stronger, but also it gives the opportunity for the teacher or the person who had their item taken to say, this is how I felt when I noticed it wasn't there. And this is also how it makes me feel that we are able to talk through this, and that you're, making me a bracelet, and that I know that, you're sorry, and I accept your apology, and let's move on from here. So it really shows this nice example of how we resolve conflict. How do we move on from hurting a relationship? Because it might be like, I don't have relationships with anyone. Nobody likes me anyway. I'm just going to take this. Who cares? They don't like me anyway. And that's not the case, right? We want to say like, hey, just because you took something doesn't mean I don't like you. And how can we work past this? And that relationship building activity where they do something, not like necessarily writing an apology letter, but like, I'm going to make something. I'm going to take time out of my day. Like maybe the kid is really good at some type of art or writing a song or something. Like, let's do something that you're really good at that fosters your strengths and abilities. And let's give that to the person that we took from, to let them know that like, we didn't mean to hurt the relationship that we had. Okay. If you have other strategies that you use to deal with stealing, then I would love you to leave those strategies in the comments below. And if you know somebody that this video could help, make sure to subscribe and go ahead and share this episode with them. Don't forget to check out our free webinar at stablemoments.com. And thank you so much for being a big deal in the life of a child and helping us end the foster care crisis. Until next time.